In 2025, something historic happened in the global electric vehicle industry. For more than a decade, one company had symbolized the future of electric cars: Tesla. It wasn't just a car maker, it was a tech icon. But by the end of 2025, that crown quietly changed hands. A Chinese company that many people outside Asia had underestimated, BYD, became the world's largest seller of electric vehicles. This wasn't luck. It wasn't a short-term market fluctuation. It was the result of a deeply engineered strategy that had been unfolding for over 15 years. And to understand how BYD defeated Tesla, we need to understand a concept that sounds boring but changes everything: vertical integration. By the end of 2025, BYD sold over 2.26 million battery electric vehicles globally, growing nearly 28% year-on-year, while Tesla's deliveries fell by around 10% to about 1.64 million units. In Europe, Tesla's sales collapsed by nearly 40% in under a year, while BYD's registrations more than tripled. This happened despite rising interest rates, reduced EV subsidies, and growing geopolitical tensions that should have slowed Chinese manufacturers. Instead, BYD accelerated straight through them. So what did BYD do differently? To answer that, let's rewind. Tesla's philosophy has always been horizontal specialization. Tesla focuses on software, branding, vehicle design, and system-level innovation, while outsourcing a large part of its physical components, batteries, chips, raw materials, to external suppliers. This model works brilliantly when supply chains are stable. BYD took the opposite route. BYD decided very early that electric vehicles are not software products with wheels. They are industrial machines whose cost, reliability, and scalability depend on who controls the physical supply chain. So instead of outsourcing, BYD internalized almost everything. Today, BYD manufactures roughly 75 to 80% of all components inside its own ecosystem. That includes battery cells, power semiconductors, electric motors, power electronics, and even vehicle platforms. Traditional automakers typically outsource 70 to 80% of these parts. Tesla, even at its Shanghai Gigafactory, produces only about 46% of components in-house. BYD inverted the entire industry model. This single decision created three powerful advantages: lower costs, supply chain resilience, and faster innovation. According to UBS analysis cited in the study, a BYD vehicle comparable to a Tesla Model 3 costs about 15% less to manufacture than Tesla's Shanghai-built car. That difference doesn't come from cheap labor. It comes from eliminating supplier margins. Every outsourced component typically includes a 10 to 20% markup. BYD keeps that margin for itself, again and again, across thousands of parts. But vertical integration doesn't start at the factory. It starts underground. BYD realized that batteries make up nearly 40% of an electric vehicle's cost. So instead of just making batteries, BYD went upstream, into mining. Over the past few years, BYD secured lithium assets across China, Africa, and South America. In Brazil's Lithium Valley, BYD acquired mining rights to high-grade hard rock lithium. In Zimbabwe, it invested through partners in major spodumene mines like Sabi Star and Arcadia, with hundreds of thousands of tons of annual capacity. It even partnered with Chile's SQM for long-term lithium supply agreements. This mattered enormously when governments stepped in. In late 2022, Zimbabwe banned the export of raw lithium to force local processing. Many companies were caught off guard and had to halt operations. BYD wasn't. It had already invested in local processing plants worth hundreds of millions of dollars. While competitors scrambled, BYD's supply chain kept moving. Then came the semiconductor crisis. Between 2020 and 2023, the global chip shortage wiped out production of more than 11 million vehicles worldwide. Legacy automakers shut down lines because they couldn't source basic microcontrollers. Tesla struggled with supply volatility. BYD barely flinched. That's because BYD has its own semiconductor division, established back in 2004. It produces critical power electronics like IGBTs and silicon carbide MOSFETs in-house. These chips are the heart of an EV's inverter, controlling how efficiently power flows from the battery to the motor. BYD aggressively transitioned from silicon-based IGBTs to silicon carbide MOSFETs, which operate at higher voltages, higher temperatures, and with far lower energy loss. These chips switch faster, generate less heat, and allow smaller, more efficient powertrains. Most automakers buy these chips at massive premiums from third-party suppliers. BYD manufactures them internally, avoiding wafer costs that can be 30 to 50 times higher in the open market. This semiconductor independence also enabled something strategic. BYD started offering advanced AI driving hardware even in budget vehicles, something Tesla reserves for expensive software add-ons. At the center of BYD's ecosystem is its most famous product, the Blade battery. Unlike Tesla and many Western manufacturers that rely heavily on nickel, cobalt, manganese chemistry, BYD bet on lithium iron phosphate batteries. LFP batteries are cheaper, safer, and free from cobalt, an ethically and geopolitically sensitive material. The trade-off is lower energy density. BYD solved that with design. The Blade battery uses a long, thin cell structure integrated directly into the pack using cell-to-pack architecture. This boosts volumetric efficiency by around 50%, narrowing the energy density gap while preserving LFP's safety advantages. In nail penetration tests, Blade batteries do not catch fire or explode, something many NCM batteries fail catastrophically. This design choice allowed BYD to sell cars like the Seagull at around $11,000, a price point Tesla simply cannot reach today. BYD now produces over 135 gigawatt-hours of batteries annually, and even supplies competitors like Toyota, gaining both revenue and insight into rival technology benchmarks. But manufacturing isn't useful if you can't ship, so BYD bought ships. Instead of relying on expensive and volatile maritime shipping markets, BYD spent nearly $700 million building its own fleet of 8 massive roll-on/roll-off vehicle carriers. These ships can transport over 1 million vehicles annually and are powered by LNG or hybrid systems. While shipping costs increased tenfold globally since 2020, BYD insulated itself from the chaos and gained the ability to respond quickly to demand in Europe, Latin America, and Southeast Asia. Then came localization. As Europe and the US introduced tariffs on Chinese EVs, some exceeding 30%, BYD shifted strategy again. Instead of exporting cars, it started exporting factories. BYD began production in Brazil at a former Ford plant, supplying the entire Mercosur region. In Thailand, it built a hub for right-hand drive markets and even supplied Europe from Thai-made vehicles to bypass EU tariffs. Hungary and Turkey are next, turning BYD into a local European manufacturer rather than a Chinese exporter. BYD didn't stop at passenger cars. Its 7+4 strategy aims to electrify everything: buses, taxis, delivery trucks, mining vehicles, port equipment, airport shuttles, forklifts. BYD vehicles now operate in ports, warehouses, and logistics hubs worldwide, often powering BYD's own supply chain with BYD technology. This embeds the company into the industrial backbone of global trade. But there is a trade-off. Despite massive scale, BYD's profit per vehicle remains far lower than Tesla's. In 2024, Tesla earned roughly $6,000 per car. BYD earned between $670 and $1,100. Aggressive pricing, heavy capital expenditure, and a large share of low-margin entry-level cars weigh on profitability. Yet BYD can survive this. Its vertical integration allows it to maintain healthy gross margins even during price wars. BYD can outlast competitors in wars of attrition because it controls its costs, its inputs, its logistics, and its technology. By 2025, BYD didn't just outsell Tesla, it changed the rules of the game. Tesla represents the era of Silicon Valley innovation. BYD represents the era of industrial sovereignty. In a world of geopolitical tension, fragile supply chains, and capital-intensive technologies, the company that controls its own destiny wins. BYD started as a battery company in 1995. 30 years later, it built a fortress, from lithium mines to semiconductors to ships, and drove straight through the global EV market. And this is why BYD didn't just beat Tesla, it out-engineered the entire industry.